Imagine a war where the most powerful military in the world struggled against guerrilla fighters hiding in jungles. A war broadcast into living rooms every night on television. A war that divided a nation, sparked massive protests, and changed global politics forever. For 20 years, the Vietnam War became one of the most controversial and devastating conflicts of the 20th century. Millions died, governments fell, and the world watched. But how did this war begin? And how did it end with the fall of Saigon in 1975? Let's break down the Vietnam War. To understand the Vietnam War, we have to go back before 1955. For decades, Vietnam was part of French Indochina, controlled by France. During World War II, Japan occupied the region, weakening French control. After the war, a nationalist leader named Ho Chi Minh led a communist independence movement called the Viet Minh. In 1954, Vietnamese forces defeated the French at the decisive Battle of Dien Bien Phu. The result was the Geneva Accords, which temporarily divided Vietnam into two parts, Communist North Vietnam and anti-Communist South Vietnam. The plan was to hold elections to reunify the country, but those elections never happened. In the North, Ho Chi Minh led the communist government. In the South, the United States supported a non-communist regime led by Ngo Dinh Diem. This division reflected the larger global struggle of the Cold War. The United States feared that if Vietnam became communist, other countries in Asia might follow, something known as the domino theory. By the early 1960s, communist guerrilla fighters in the South, known as the Viet Cong, began attacking South Vietnamese forces. The conflict was growing. At first, the United States only sent military advisors. But everything changed in 1964. After a naval incident known as the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the U.S. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This allowed President Lyndon B. Johnson to dramatically expand American military involvement. Soon, hundreds of thousands of American troops were deployed to Vietnam. The war had officially escalated. But Vietnam was unlike any war the United States had fought before. Instead of clear front lines, American troops faced guerrilla warfare in dense jungles. The Viet Cong used tunnels, ambushes, and surprise attacks. Meanwhile, North Vietnam received support from the Soviet Union and China. The United States responded with massive bombing campaigns like Operation Rolling Thunder. Chemical defoliants, such as Agent Orange, were used to destroy jungle cover. But the war dragged on. In 1968, communist forces launched one of the most dramatic attacks of the war, the Tet Offensive. Thousands of fighters attacked cities and military bases across South Vietnam simultaneously. Although the offensive was eventually repelled, it shocked the American public. Many people realized the war was far from being won. Public opinion in the United States began to turn against the conflict. Massive protests erupted across the country. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, the United States began reducing its troop presence. President Richard Nixon introduced a policy called Vietnamization, aiming to shift responsibility to South Vietnamese forces. Peace negotiations eventually produced the Paris Peace Accords. American troops withdrew in 1973. But the war in Vietnam itself was not over. Without American military support, South Vietnam struggled to hold off Northern forces. In 1975, North Vietnamese troops launched a massive offensive. Within months, South Vietnam collapsed. On April 30, 1975, North Vietnamese tanks entered the capital in the historic Fall of Saigon. Vietnam was officially reunified under communist rule. The war was over. The Vietnam War left a deep mark on the world. More than 3 million people were killed. The conflict reshaped American politics, influenced Cold War strategy, and transformed Vietnam forever. It also became a powerful reminder of how complex and costly modern warfare can be. And even today, the legacy of the Vietnam War continues to shape global history. If you want more deep dives into the conflicts that changed the world, make sure to subscribe and stay curious. Because history is never just about the past. It explains the present.